What are your takes from this game on your end?
It was a good game from the Lakers. I mean, the Lakers won by 25 points. So, I mean, that's something that you could probably hang your hat on with that. But do I think that this is a game that is going to mean much in the regular season? Not really. Simply just because, like you said, LeBron's not in the game. Anthony Davis isn't in the game. James Harden's not in the game. Kyrie got ejected in the third quarter along with Dennis Schroeder. And pretty much it's Kevin Durant going up against pretty much most of the Lakers bench outside of maybe KCP and maybe Taylor Horton Tucker. It's just it was a great game from the Lakers. I was actually surprised at how well Drummond played. I mean, in that one, there was one sequence where Drummond was going up against Aldridge, and Aldridge just got absolutely bullied by Drummond. And don't get me wrong, Aldridge is a pretty solid guy. He's a big guy, but against Drummond, Drummond probably has like 30, 40 pounds on him. And it's a walk in the park for Drummond. It's like he's too small. It's such a mismatch defensively for Aldridge to try to defend Drummond. And I will say this, though. This is the issue that I think Brooklyn's going to run into, especially when it comes to the playoffs. Who is going to defend down low if they're going up against a team that has a big man? And that's one of the things I'm really concerned with for the Nets here. I don't have an issue with them scoring. They're going to put up 110, 115 points a game, if not more than that. It's just at some point, though, you're going to have to have somebody down low defending the paint, because if they go up against any team with a decent sized big man that can get a one-on-one mismatch down low, they're going to exploit that as much as possible. And the Nets don't really have anybody to counter that. DeAndre Jordan hasn't really been playing that many minutes. I mean, there were even reports that he was looking for a buyout, and the Nets weren't willing to budge on a possible buyout of DeAndre Jordan. So maybe they could utilize him down the road a little bit. But, like, I mean, their tallest guy is either DeAndre Jordan or Kevin Durant. You don't have that much rim protection down low for the Nets. And that's really kind of my biggest takeaway from this game is the Nets can shoot the lights out, but who's going to defend down low? With the Lakers, it's kind of just wait and see until LeBron and AD get back. But there's a little bit of concern here with Brooklyn and their inability to defend down low. That's kind of my takeaway from this game.
I mean, I didn't watch the game. I was preoccupied with some other things. And obviously I was getting updates on my phone and I was just looking at the score. And I saw going into halftime, I'm pretty sure you told me it was like, I think, 60-58 or something like that. Like LA was up by just by a little bit.
It was only a 3-point game going into halftime.
So, like, legit, I was just like, oh, wow, this is a really good game. Like, people are going at it. And then the next thing I see, I see an update from Twitter, and I see that Kyrie and Dennis Schroeder get ejected. Now, granted, the exchange looked to be relatively trivial, but from a closer angle, it looked like Dennis Schroeder had said something along the lines of the N-word to Kyrie. Kyrie responded in a negative manner that he just did not appreciate that connotation towards him. It ended up them going back and forth with more words and verbal exchanges. Kyrie got a little heated and got in Schroeder's face. It led to an ejection. But both players were playing relatively well before that. And Kyrie had 18 and Schroeder had 19. So, I mean, in terms of productivity over on the Brooklyn aspect of it, I mean, Kyrie was putting up a lot of points on that end. And I feel like maybe the offense kind of went cold without that second option. KD was kind of forced to have to shoulder the load. Not that he's unfamiliar to that, but he only scored 22. I believe he didn't really play that much of the fourth quarter because it looks like he only had 24 minutes played. So it just seemed like, once they got out of hand, Brooklyn decided to rest their starters. But similar to what Kyle said, man, they really don't have any big depth. DeAndre Jordan has been a little difficult on that aspect of saying, I'm not really playing much. I want to get out of here. But I mean, if I'm Brooklyn, I'm doing the same thing. Like, there's no way I'm letting my only big that is actually known for defense to walk out, especially for, money that we don't have right now because Brooklyn is probably well over the cap. And I'm just sitting here looking at this box score, and what I'm taking away from it is the plus minus on both sides are literally oil and water, because all I see is a bunch of negatives on that aspect from Brooklyn, and I'm seeing a bunch of plus minus positives from LA. I mean, everybody on the Lakers pretty much scored double digits except for three players, and three players. Well, one of them is a shock, and Alex Caruso only scoring 5 points. But Giannis's little brother, he only had three, and then something Kakak, he had like zero. But it's like the Lakers' consistent rotation actually had and put up decent points throughout the integrity of this entire game. And I'm just sitting here looking at it like I take it with a grain of salt. Brooklyn blew out the LA a couple of months back, and everybody kind of said, "Oh my God, is this what it's going to be like going forward?" Because I'm pretty sure KD and Kyrie didn't play that game either, and James Harden kind of went off and did his thing. But now, obviously, Harden wasn't playing. Kyrie gets ejected, and now Bron and AD are out, and the Lakers kind of completely role reversal this entire situation. And the only thing I want to touch on lastly is when AD gets back, if Brooklyn doesn't fix this, this has the potential to be a gentleman's sweep. No disrespect to KD and Harden, bro. Andre Drummond is a force to be reckoned with down low. I'm not saying he's going to average 20 points. They really high key might get out rebounded this whole series because of the towers that the Lakers now have in the front court with DeAndre Jordan and Anthony Davis when he gets back. Not to mention LeBron James is a phenomenal rebounding small forward. So we're looking at Brooklyn might be able to shoot the lights out, but if they don't make it, they're not. It's like make it, take it. Like if they're not making any shots, LA is going to abuse them down low and do what they have to do. As a Laker fan, I'm assuming you just have to hope that they're not trying to shoot their way out of these situations. You have mismatches throughout the entireness of this on the defensive side for Brooklyn. You have to utilize that and take advantage, get them into foul trouble. If this is the finals matchup of the future, I'm excited because I know KD is not going to let this roll over very well. I know Kyrie Irving is going to be upset for the next game whenever they do get to play again. And I know that James Harden is going to come at this and mark this, circle it if they do play one more time and say, yo, I'm not letting this go. I'm pretty sure they don't play again this season because in interconference matchups, it's 1-1 in each respective team's home court. So the next time these two are going to play is going to be potentially the finals. So I know that Brooklyn's going to circle that, and try to get to that goal because they didn't want it. They didn't like that getting embarrassed at home. But overall, I thought it was a great game up until, middle of the third quarter, late fourth. And I was just like, I guess it kind of just drifted away. But
yeah, because the Lakers really put it on them in the second half. And it really kind of started with the whole Kyrie and Dennis Schroeder exchange, which ended in them being ejected. But I will say this, though. The Lakers, if they get this type of production from their entire team, nobody's stopping them. Because once LeBron and AD come back, and even Kuzma wasn't even playing in that game.
So shit, I forgot he didn't play either. Damn.
You get all those players back, and you get 75% of what the Lakers were able to do against the Nets this past weekend. Nobody wants to play the Lakers at that point. But look, the Lakers are right now sitting in the middle of the pack as far as playoff seeding in the Western Conference. And I don't really expect that to change that much until LeBron and AD come back from their injuries. And at this point, I would have to say they'd have to come back sooner rather than later, simply because at best now, I think they may get the third seed if they were to come back and start winning the last 2 to 3 weeks of games they have left before the playoffs. But the Lakers have been surprisingly holding their own. I actually thought they were going to lose like damn near 75% of their games without LeBron and AD. But the entire team has really stepped up here. So you have to give a lot of credit to Frank Vogel. And I think that's one guy that's probably lost in the mix here is when you lose your top two players, which are essentially the entire, I won't say the entire team, but they're carrying the majority of the weight for the team. And yet you're still getting about maybe a 500 record from essentially just role players. That's a good team. Granted, it's not a playoff contending team without LeBron and AD, but it's still a decent team that's going to be competitive no matter who they're going up against. And they just beat the best team in the Eastern Conference. So that is saying something. And you beat them by 25 points without your two best players. Now, will that translate into playoff success? Who knows? I would like to say that, but it's way too early to tell. Their main concern is getting out of the Western Conference, and that is no easy feat right now just because of how competitive the Western Conference is.